Good afternoon. It's 4:01 p.m. This is the regular work session of the Smithfield Township Board of Supervisors. I will call this meeting to order. Members present include my colleagues Robert Levenheim and Brian Barrett, myself also, Engineer John Tressler, Solicitor Ron Karasak, and our Office Manager Julia. We are also joined by DEPG Smithfield Development Manager Doug Olmstead. I understand we have no minutes. Are there any public comments on the agenda? Hearing none and seeing none, we also have no unfinished business or public hearings or plans to act on, so we'll get right into our main event, which is Smithfield's Gateway. I know a lot of us have been following emails between developers agreement comments and plan updates, so at this point, Doug, I would turn it to you.
Okay. Wanted to briefly cover three separate issues: the subdivision plan, the land development plan, and developers agreements. I'll start off with the subdivision plan. This was originally as approved back in March. The thing to note between this and the next plan I'm going to show you is that this area of the project was included in the subdivision because we were expanding the size of the roadway, the right-of-way, down in this area. However, subsequent to that, as I mentioned at one of the previous meetings, found out that we don't own that yet. So what we propose to do, this was in consultation with John Tressler. The subdivision is still being done at this portion of the property. Mm-hmm. We've just removed the two lots that basically abut up against 447, and that also provides then not dealing with the cul-de-sac until we can take care of get that cul-de-sac from the Kirkwoods. We still tie into that as previously proposed, and there is a cross easement agreement that is also referenced on the plan. The other change that was made to this is we added both Shawnee 2 and DEPG Mosier onto the ownership of that, so that it's
Doug, I think TV's here. Oh. Do you want to do what?
Do I want to start?
Tell him you're done.
No.
Tell him you're done.
I'm not going to start over again.
Yeah, that's great.
So that we can deal with that issue in the next few weeks. Mm-hmm. What we'd like to do is to ask the township to reaffirm their approval of this reduced version of the subdivision plan. And I'd like to have that in the form of a motion, if that so please the board.
Doug, do you, or John, do you have any comments on the resubmission? I think you guys may have had it before this evening.
Yeah, we discussed it, and I'm okay certainly with the concept. I think it's appropriate to do it this way. I would suggest that you might make your motion, if you make one tonight, to approve it, make it contingent upon our final review. The plan was just revised yesterday. We just got a copy today. Right. And I'd like to check notes and things of that nature, but I'm certainly in support of the concept as it's being presented to the board.
Contingent on the
a final sign-off by the township engineer.
On the
subdivision plan.
Right.
And we're in agreement with that. The other change we made to this also is the previous version of this still had the old owners reflected, like it still had Rose Berardi as the owner of her parcel. Right. It still had Kirkwood's organization as the underlying owner of those. So those have been all updated so that they all reflect the whatever DEPG entity now owns that. So. Because that was causing some heartache with the assessor's office when they were looking at the underlying parcels and they couldn't figure stuff out. So that was another change that was made at the request.
And you mentioned that in today's, email, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, the assessor's office did.
Does, anybody have any questions on,
The only, issue would be if the engineer would believe that these are major changes to the subdivision plan, the plan would have to go through all the planning process again. But if John is of the opinion that these are not major changes, then I don't see any reason why the board, if it's of a mind to, cannot make a motion to approve the resubmission. And of course, with a new resubmit map, final review by Mr. Tressler, et cetera.
I don't think they're major changes. What has been eliminated from this plan are 2 lots which weren't part of the proposed development at this point in time anyway.
right?
So I don't think it's a major change.
Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion, to that effect.
All right, I'll make the motion.
Do I hear a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Second item is the land development plan. One of the changes that we did make to the land development plan was, in dealing with the assessor, we were able to get the assessor's office to actually provide us with what the new tax numbers were going to be. So the land development plan, even though we're kind of doing things concurrently, the land development plan does reflect the new tax numbers, so that when this gets recorded shortly after the subdivision plan is concerned, it'll already have the new tax numbers on it. And, that was something that the assessor's office was very happy to accommodate us on. This was the master site plan that was in what was originally approved.
Mm-hmm.
You notice it showed the road going all the way through. It showed the proposed layout for 1B and for 1A2. But since we're doing for just phase 1A1, we removed the proposed development in both of those situations, and we removed the road going out to tie into the cul-de-sac, because even on the previous plan, it did have a note stating this is where the road construction was going to stop for the loop road. So that same note is there, and we've just removed any reference to the fact that there, will be a road there, so as not to confuse anybody when they do look at this plan, that it just focuses on what the land development plan was for. So that was the only change. So that was just removing some information. I don't think there's a re-approval needed as far as that's concerned. That's just removing some of the background information that was on. Unless John has a different opinion.
Okay, Doug, right before we get to John, I'm writing some notes here. So the initial master site plan had 1A1, 1A2, and then a B. This is just my notes.
Yeah.
1A1, 1A2, and a B.
Yeah, 1A1 is the
Right.
area that was being subdivided, but it showed like the ghost image of the proposed development for, that parcel which is referred to as 1A2, and also the old proposed development for phase 1B.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I actually think this is more appropriate, because no one will get confused what's going on in those other phases, because it's simply not shown, and my understanding is it's probably subject to change anyway. So I think what is being shown is more appropriate. I don't know that you have to act on it. You've already approved the development portion that is being recorded, so I guess it's just an update. Although, Doug, you said it might be appropriate to reapprove this plan.
I don't have a problem with that, so I would ask that we reapprove the Phase 1A1 land development plan, subject to the final review from the township engineer.
I think that'd be appropriate.
So moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ron was gracious enough to send some comments to me earlier today, and so I provided some responses and read behind his comments. It basically boils down to the fact any language changes he was suggesting, had no problem with any of those changes, and adding some of the additional information as far as the actual numbers that were approved and putting those in there. The decision we would need is related to how much money would be required for each of the three escrow accounts that would be set up, to find out whether John's is amenable to the definition of substantial completion that is in the proposed development agreements. And the other major comment was with respect to Exhibit H, which was the collateral assignment of agreements. I just attached the draft copy of that. If there were comments that were made on a draft of that and submitted to me, I apologize that, I didn't include those, so, but that was just more as a placeholder. I don't know whether it was a complete review done of that or not.
Yeah, I don't know what Mark did anyway, but, you've answered the questions. I know that J1 and J2, I finally got a chance to look at Mark's, packet of exhibits that were all completed, and I see that John did approve of the amounts for J1 and J2, so that's even, in fact, you already have it, yes, signed letters serve as exhibits.
So we'll continue to work with John and Ron to get this buttoned up so that this can be resolved in the next week or so. Since we're getting much closer to the finish line with the various banks that we have to deal with for the multiple closings that we've got coming up in the next or so. So that's, unless Ron or John have any additional comments, with respect to, developers' agreements, I don't have anything else to report at this point in time, but I did want to at least provide you with an update of this year.
And looking quickly, supervisors, at Doug's comments, they seem to address them. So, as he said, one of the issues is a policy issue. It's not a legal issue, how much money you want in each account. So at one time, I think there was $14,000 for everything, I think. And I don't know if that's enough for the three, like, I don't know, 662 or 554, I don't know. But
obviously, we'd like to keep the number as close to that as we can, but, if there's minor deviation a little bit, we certainly, can understand that. It's really a case that, what does John think that his billings will be, let's say, on a monthly basis, at least for the two construction ones, that at least give us an idea. I mean,
Right.
if he's billing $10,000 a month and I'm not saying he is, but if he's billing $10,000 a month for inspection and we're only gonna put in $5,000, that makes no sense whatsoever.
Right.
So,
Now, are you expecting my bills to be separated as per these accounts?
yes.
Because I wanna have to do some accounting work back in the office.
Okay. I mean, it's just there's a blank in there, for each one, so it's,
Right.
they don't all have to be the same number.
I would have to defer to, me, Julia, and John to figure
I'll
out
have to get together with Julia.
Yeah, I'll send you an updated version of what we're spending. I believe when I sent it to you, we were only near to April or May. I'll resubmit that to you, so you've got the current information.
Yeah.
And we just received another invoice from our solicitor also.
Yeah, and I spoke to Lynn about that. We're spending approximately, I believe, $55,000 to $6,000, monthly between both bills. But I'll get that information, John, and I'll send it out to you.
Okay.
So feasibly, we could, 'cause I know that that's an issue that's been pending, so feasibly, we could
Yeah.
look toward getting the agreement signed by later on in the month. I expect that you'd want to be going vertical in the very near future.
Yeah. Yeah, because as soon as we have the closing and all these things get recorded,
Right.
then we'll be able to pick up the building permit and go vertical. Excuse me.
Should I take that as an indication that we're shooting for the 4th, then?
Oh, yeah, I suppose, it's my understanding that developers' agreements traditionally had not been voted on, but if that's when they need to have that in line.
We can give ourselves a date.
Yeah. I think the 24th makes sense. It gives a week before the month's over. At this point, it's just, semantics in the agreement, and it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, that it's getting closer to being completed.
You should also note out here in the comments about the, unless otherwise noted, the days shall be calendar days.
Yeah,
We've noted that, it says unless otherwise noted, so those business days don't have to change, they're fine. Because it says that unless otherwise noted, it's calendar. The only thing is whether for John, if that's enough time, that's fine.
I just figured with the business days as opposed to calendar days, if it's around the holiday, the business days actually gives him an extra day, whereas on a calendar day, it doesn't necessarily do that.
So we're okay with this language, because, that I propose, because it says unless otherwise noted, references calendar days. Okay. Comments?
I don't have anything else. Does the township have any questions?
Just, Doug, when I got this, I saw the reply of Ron. Was there an additional thing? You said you did, it went out early and you needed one more line item?
Yeah, that was adding some, actually amounts into the developer's agreement.
In other words, I forgot to say, or not forgot to say, it was hit before it went, I just want the amounts in the agreements. I'd like to see the amounts of the loans and the grants, even though I know that there are exhibits, like exhibits, I don't know, A,
And I actually did provide the response to this one.
Yeah, but,
Because,
okay.
My last red line item actually addressed, Ron's comment from his other email.
That it will be done?
Yes.
Got it.
And again, I know that's probably a little bit anal, because again, there are the exhibits that say this is how much there's gonna be for this grant and that grant. I think it's exhibit G, that may have that broken down, but I still like to see the different text too.
It never hurts.
Attorney
No. We're on complete agreement, so we don't have a problem.
Excellent.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Our next item. Our next item is discussing radios for the road crew. I know that our roadmaster, Ed McCormick, had pursued some quotes. I know that our system was last done in the 70s or 80s. Julia, you can probably talk more about that than I.
Sure. So the township purchased its current radio system back in 1975. We're currently running on a conventional system that is 45 years old. With industrial communications, we are the last person running on their conventional gear. Ed has asked that we purchase, I'll back up a little bit. Ed needed new radios for one of his trucks, and when he went to industrial, they said, rather than us sell you a radio that is basically outdated and defunct at this point, would you be interested in upgrading your entire system? Ed does think it's a good idea for us to transition to digital at this time because they're so old, and with only one repeater left. I mean, feasibly, we could be good for a year, for 2, for 3, but if that repeater goes, Industrial has not promised that they'll repair it for us. So this is their thought. One complication of this, you do see that there's a $16,000 price tag on this, but the radios have also been affected by the chip shortage due to COVID, which means that we're looking at the earliest, if we put the order in now, of getting these radios in February or March of 2022, which is why Ed has asked that the board consider this at this time.
Is there a competing radio to this that would be available sooner?
Feasibly, Charlie said that all of the radios have been affected by the chip shortage, and it's not just a radio upgrade that we're doing, we're upgrading our entire system.
Yeah.
I trust Ed for what sort of radios he thinks are best for his truck, and this is a CoStar price.
That's great.
So we're good to go with that, but I would defer to him on what kind of radios we should purchase, and I trust him with this.
And also, Julia, I think that the Office of OEM too has been involved with this in some of the COG meetings. They've done some presentations. And I think what they're saying is that they almost recommend that we go in this direction. Speaking of. Ed's done his research. The company he's worked with before, good relationship, and I believe the COG itself and the Office of OEM is also in favor of this, going this direction with this product. Is that correct? The
Office of OEM, I believe, it's a separate upgrade that they're doing.
Oh, I know that.
Ed explained to me that these radios will not be immediately compatible to speak with everything, because these are designed only for our crew to be able to speak with one another. But the concept remains, and Charlie didn't get into it too much, and I'm not an expert in radios, but he did say that there will be programming available, that if we need to take these digital radios that we might buy, we can make them available to be used on the OEM.
Because the OEM system is inevitable, it is going to come out, and God forbid we have a conflict and we can't connect. So, that's critical, to spend $16,000, $17,000 and just talk to each other and nobody else. That could happen.
Yeah.
So we need some kind of a reassurance that in fact we will be able to be compatible with the system that OEM is going to.
I would imagine they would have like a technician or something that would come to set them up when the software would change. I don't know if these are like cloud connected or anything of that nature, but I imagine someone would be able to come install the software on them at the time that the county, I don't know if the county system is live now, because I think some people have already made the change, and not everybody is like fully converted. I think very few people are. I know some municipalities are looking for grants and stuff to fund it because it's costly, because of, police and stuff. Fortunately, we just have, public works.
Do these radios have, GPS location capability to figure out where the trucks are?
That I do not know. I can call Charlie and ask.
Yeah, I think that's real important.
And again, I just wanted to make sure that this can be done. So, Jacob, if they do send a tech out, it can be done. As opposed to, no, I'm sorry, it can't be done.
Sure.
So that is, I think we have to go back to OEM to make sure that is a doable situation.
Okay. I suppose with that, Julie, if you want to talk to them and talk to either them or Charlie to make sure. I assume the system is probably similar to what everyone else is going for right now, since it's the most up to date with the digital conversion over the analog system.
What do we have, 7 we want to buy, or 10? It goes up to 10.
Looks like we're getting 14.
Yeah.
14 radios?
1 base station, 14 mobile radios, and 4 portable radios, operating on the wide area next digital system.
It's like a pretty good price when you compare it to iPhones.
Yeah. That's true. Not like the iPhone, it will be worth the cost. All right, well, we can move on to the next thing then, since more things to research.
We have is there a time frame here involved so that, we're still gonna be able to function maybe for a year or so? I'm asking you.
Not to hesitate, we're the last
No
person
promise.
operating on the conventional, repeater.
When you say last person, you mean,
Last company, there's no, like, if Middle Smithfield were running these style of radios too,
right,
there's nobody else on the system. We are the only person using that conventional repeater. So Charlie didn't say, and would not promise that if that conventional repeater broke, that they would repair it to accommodate just us, because we're the only person who's using that at this time. They might, if it's an easy fix, and he also didn't say that it could break tomorrow, in a year. We might even be able to limp along for another 3 or 4 years with it. I believe if we decide to do that, it still needs to purchase, a new radio to fix what we've lost at this point. But it's one of those, at some point that our system is going to become, useless, and we don't necessarily have that time frame of when it is. And this is a more proactive update, so we don't get into our trucks one day and find out that we can't communicate out of line of sight.
right. So I guess what I'm saying very simply is that, do we, okay this now to be a line item on the budget, 2022 budget, or do we actually, as you said, time is of the essence, it's gonna take quite a bit of time to get these anyway, and if we wait and order in January, Christ, we might not get them to the end of 2022.
And that's the concern.
That's what Charlie
why I
said.
brought it, up now. So if you want, you can plan to put it in the budget, feasibly. I'll contact Charlie tomorrow and get the answers to these questions, and we can make sure that it is on the agenda for your 24th meeting to discuss after you have all of the information you want.
I would think that'd be a good idea.
I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
And then at that time, you can say yes, and we'll just understand as we go through budget talk, in the coming months that we'll have to relegate this $17,000.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Great.
So we'll talk about that again then. Next up is a truck purchase for the Ford F-600, I suppose it is, with the chassis, and then uplift to make it, function with our current setup. It's to replace one that's ailing and no longer looking to be the flagship of the fleet, right?
That is another situation, where a chip shortage and other shortages related to COVID have pushed us from a 2 to 3 month turnaround to a 6 or 7 month turnaround. So it's in front of the board now because Ed is hoping to be able to use this for this upcoming class. This truck, I don't remember the model of the one that we're replacing, but the issue is that we can no longer get parts for it. There's very few and far between, and Ed is struggling to do that. Because of that, he feels that this is the best option for him and his crew in order to do. The total for the truck will be $101,488. Right. And this is, again, if you were to say, okay for this, we would order the truck now, feasibly not get it delivered until February or even maybe March at this point, but it would be coming out of next year's budget.
Right.
I'd like to make a motion to approve it now, 101,488.00.
I'll second that motion.
Any questions? Public? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, great. One thing solved. Our next item is, hiring Chris Kimball to the full-time position on the road crew. Brian, Julia, and myself had the chance to meet Chris after his vetting process with Ed, and, extraordinarily qualified and very enthusiastic, and he replaces, an equally enthusiastic member of our crew who left to pursue other ventures. So it's very important as we get close to fall and winter prep that we fill that position. That said, I'd like to move that we hire Chris Kimball to that position pending passage of his background check.
I'll second that motion.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll recuse myself just because I didn't meet him.
Okay. Yeah, he's a wonderful guy. He actually comes from, Delaware Township, so he's, very familiar with lots of snow and all that fun, and he's very talented with equipment, and actually works for, a towing company also, so he's gonna be very mechanical, and that'll be really important with the changing nature of everything that we're dealing with weather-wise.
I trust everybody's judgment.
Okay, great. Next item is discussing LSA grant relevant to Marshall's Falls Phase 2.
Okay, so at the, last meeting, we discussed if the board wanted to pursue an LSA grant, for Marshall's Falls Phase 2. At this time, this is the same, project that we applied for the GTRP for, and right now we don't have any funds for it. The project total cost is estimated at $544,450, and is not funded at all. Currently, the GTRP application that I mentioned earlier, we submitted for $250,000 with a $274,000 match and and $20,000 worth of plan. Because we've received no funding for this project at this time, it's Mary's suggestion that we apply for this, but we're not going to receive the GTRP, which means going after the full grant ask of $544,000. With the LSA, a grant match is not required, but it always looks good to have funds that we're planning to contribute to this. Right now, the engineering costs on the project will exceed the 10% allowed by the LSA. So Larry's thought is to use our match of $16,855 as a way to offset the engineering costs that we would be paying anyways for this project. But the reason that we're discussing this is because you should think about those numbers, decide if that is what you want to do. And then if that is in fact what you want to do, the next two items are to pass, Resolution 483, which will say that we're applying for the grant, and then the match commitment letter, which states how much the township plans to contribute to this project.
Just for my information, does any of this land, is any of it in Middle Smithfield? I know it sort of straddles the line.
It does straddle the line, but it is wholly considered to be in Smithfield.
Is there any portion of the park that we would like to expand it to the Smithfield?
It's surrounded by residences, and the only part, it is a very small sliver on the northwestern, side, if I have my directions correct.
All right.
So it's kind of like at the top where the falls are, and that one, house is.
Yeah, the only option we might have is going back to the Scott family and seeing if they wanted it, but we all know that we hadn't.
Don't remind me.
Very little success in that respect, but it's just an outsider.
I think if Mary Himmelberger's, suggestion is the full amount, given that there is, it's a minimal match, and if we get, say, all of it, then we won't have to worry about GTRP or some other combination of things. We can sort of avoid, doling out cash left and right for this. There's no match required, but to be competitive, this covers the overage, right? Based on, I think that's what you mentioned in your email.
Yeah, the engineering costs will only be covered up to 10% of the project award.
Right.
Because we don't know how much the project award is going to be. How Mary's office handles this is they take it and they assume that 10% of the engineering costs will be covered in relation to the construction cost of the project. And then any overage from that is what they contribute as match. to give any townships they're working with a ballpark number. If we don't receive the full amount for the full project, we obviously will not be required to contribute the entire match, and we can scale it as we need to. But the LSA grant is very nice because we do have the option to get the most bang for our buck instead of a DCNR grant that requires a 50% contribution or other LSAs that require 15 or 20. Other DCED grants.
And that's,
Yes, that was what that long confusing email.
Well, if we get this then at, say, I don't know, let's say for some reason it comes out to 270 and the other amount, you know, and we get half, I guess, or whatever our ask is for CPRP, the function at match then for us.
Because these are two different pots of money, the LSA grant comes out of game funding and the GTRP, I believe Mary said, comes out of the Marcellus Shale Fund. So because they're different pots of money, she said DCED should have no problem using DCED funds to match other DCED funds because they're coming out of different areas.
well, I like that proposal, if we do go that way, and then we'll commit to $16,855. Then if we do go that way, as you said, the next two items, or Jacob said, would come into play. Or do you wanna?
Well, given the,
give it a?
it sounds like everybody likes the idea of going for the full thing, knowing that, you know, we can adapt if necessary. So if after this meeting is complete, if we vote on a different amount, you can fill in the blank so we can all sign it then. And I would move that we adopt, resolution number 483, the application for this grant with the full amount, the $544,450. Do I hear a second? Hey, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you
And,
again.
yeah, this is great. Next item is the match commitment letter. Brian, you just read off that number, the 16,000 number.
16,855.
Would you like to make a motion that we commit that as the match?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next item is the draft lot joinder application. We discussed this at our last meeting.
Yes, Ron was not available at the last meeting, so we were waiting on his comments, to know if we were good to go. John Tressler took a look at it and said that he's happy with it. So we are waiting on the blessing of our solicitor.
And I have looked at it, prior to the meeting here today, although I have not had a chance to send an email, it meets with my approval also.
So then, at this time, if the board wants to motion to adopt the new lot joinder application, we'll put it into practice.
Great. So moved. Wait a second.
Second.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Aye.
The only thing I would say, or you've already motioned on, I should have said something before, but is whether the 375 is enough, and I'll have to rely upon, Julia there, because, I don't know, by the time I look at it, John looks at it, he might burn up 375 real quick, I don't know.
I'm actually in the process of going through all of our solicitor and engineering bills from 2021 all the way back to 2013. It's a process, but I am paying attention to the lot joiners as I do other research.
Okay.
So if
Well, you could always change it at another meeting if the amount's not enough.
we update that, based on our fee schedule resolution. So once I've completed that information and I give it to the board, if we do need to raise or lower it, I'll have that backup information and you'll have it before we can take that.
I think we'll look at that in January then.
It's not meant to be cute, because I'm not sure what you're doing that research for. Was there anything I can help you with?
We're doing, research into, different escrow funds that we have open, that have been open for a very long time. We wanna make sure that all of our numbers are correct.
If there's anything that I can help you with, let me know.
Okay, will do, thank you.
Because my bills are pretty detailed.
And it's making it quite easy to go through them.
I was gonna say the same thing. We assign job numbers to each applicant that comes in, so if you need us to sort something, we can do that pretty easily.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
There you go.
Thank you.
First email tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Well, no, we can do it.
Awesome. So, great. Our next, item is considering SEO training for continuing education. And we have this before us. Julia, can you clarify what the actual cost is? I don't know if it's like a couple of classes, or is it like, is this for the whole program, or is it just for one, or?
These are multiple courses. Ken, as you guys know, recently passed his SEO exam, so he is an active SEO at this time. In order to stay an active SEO, you need to get 15 credits for every 2 years, so your SEO registration doesn't come to fun. These classes are ones that can be found, they total $425, and they will allow him to stay an active SEO through 2023.
And that's
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
You said $450 or $425?
$425.
Okay.
There's, the breakout of them, the classes are $120, $105, $100, $50, and $50. That will give him 15.5 credits that he has after this. And because of the way the system works, he can carry over up to 3 credits into the next system. So if he takes these courses, he'll have 0.5 credits to carry over for the 2023 to 2025 rotation.
So are these courses, they're gonna be available online?
I believe all of them that he picked are, yes.
I only asked that question because it's, the additional expenses.
Mm-hmm. I know that the 3 TSET courses are available online. I would need to check because it doesn't explicitly say on the DEP form. But I believe they're online courses. I can find out.
Is his position here sort of as a backup SEO, because the sewer authority has an SEO, so he's just, backing up that officer?
No, Scott Brown, Jake Schray from Hanover are our SEOs, and I think, the thought is Ken's gonna need training before he would actually go out in the field, so.
Well, I think the sewer authority is very happy with them.
No, not, the sewer authority's got nothing to do with us.
They don't hire?
The sewer authority has nothing to do with septic.
Oh, okay, septic, all right. Okay, I was confused. All right. Now I understand.
No worries, there's, believe me, that we've
But he'll be involved.
dealt with
He'll
more
be
than.
involved with sewer authority matters when they get into that kind of stuff.
Oh, well, certainly when it comes
On-site
to.
septic systems, that's part of his training.
Right.
So in a way, it's intermingled, I guess, remember?
Do we have any comments, questions?
Just one, Mr. Chair, so that since he's approved as an SEO, we're not gonna do the Scott Brown anymore?
No, we haven't really discussed that yet, but when we discussed, him training, I think the initial thought, because we had a previous SEO when this was talked about, is that he would be able to, serve as a backup, but also he's gonna need some field experience before I think any of us would feel comfortable, doing that. He's also got a lot of zoning officers, so we can't expect him to be there all the time, but if there's a conflict with Hanover, or when he's completed with training, I think we can talk.
The relationship with Hanover and Scott is excellent, and probably want to keep that as well. And what a good mentor.
Yeah, definitely.
Let me ask John just one question on this. Do you believe there's any conflict there with the ZO and the SEO, or not?
No, I don't think so.
I don't want to jump through all these hoops, and then there's some conflict is raised by, DEP, we get letters from assistant counsel in Harrisburg,
Wow, it almost sounds too funny to be true.
I heard, Ken has a very good sense of smell, which should help him in his job a lot.
This place never ceases to amaze me. That said, would anyone like to make a motion on, approving the continuing education credits?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any questions?
And I'm sorry, what was the price of that one?
$425 total.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Our next item is tree cutting at Waterfront. Ed solicited a quote from, Strong Tree Service, based over in Stroudsburg. Got a very detailed proposal over here. Really not too much to say about it, other than that, township's gonna chip it, and it'll be a resource, and it'll prevent, hazards.
To remind the board the background on this, Russ Albert approached the board stating that we had dead trees in Waterfront Park that we should take a look at, and this is where that has led.
So how many trees are there, Mr. Strunk's gonna take down?
The cost is pretty
Looks
much
like 5.
in line with what I would expect. I'm a little jealous, only that 4 years I've been trying to get 3 trees either taken out or trimmed on the border of Mount Nebo Park so that the viewpoint, which we have on our map, would actually have a view. And, we've never been able to find the money to do that. I wish we could, use the park budget to find a way to have a view from the viewpoint of Mount Nebo, and whatever we do, of course, would be split with Middle Smithfield. So I only bring that up.
It's a good,
For what, how many times now?
Yeah, how many times?
And we all agree. We do all agree. The only thing is, there was one other option. There's an individual that, was aware of it and volunteered to get involved. And he had, he said that he could take these trees down, the ones that were indicated, marked. But if the, road crew was there to, take it away, everything else, but I guess we're gonna do that anyway, right?
Yeah.
We cut this in half, but, Strunk, he's got, the big thing, he's got the truck to go up and do it safely, as opposed to sending a climber
If
up.
we're taking these down rather than chipping them, maybe we should just cut them and allow, residents who want to come and get the wood, just like, the power company does when they cut down trees, for power lines. They leave the wood there, and a lot of people use it for firewood in the winter. Why waste it?
I'm very familiar with the power lines. The only problem is what they leave you is something.
Yeah.
You could have a big fire.
But I know my neighbors don't, they just cut it in small.
Yeah, cut it again.
So if they could just stack it somewhere, it would be.
Or maybe, it's pretty rotten stuff, but, let's see what Strunk says.
Doesn't it burn well, rotten stuff?
I suppose,
Quickly.
I have no problem with the proposal. I suppose it's worth, potentially asking them about that.
Yeah. Put it in the newsletter saying, got all this wood, if you want some, haul it away, or cut it wherever you want.
Well, anyone like to make a motion on this proposal?
Let's go with the proposal, yes, I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
My apologies, I missed it. Robert, did you second that motion?
Yes.
Our next item is something I would move to table. It's in relation to disaster declaration. I think we all know that the declaration, that we have is separate from that of the governor. However, they are largely symbolic, and ours was written with the governor's in mind. And when I asked that this be placed on the docket, things were slightly different. And I think eventually we're gonna have to wait out some state guidance and see if the legislature will move forward on anything. Because as it stands now, the disaster declaration that we have now is no different than, other than, in symbol, other than if there was a flood and we needed to hire someone to go, pump out a park or something like that. It doesn't really enable anything beyond that. The only thing that it did impact was when the state was giving money for various things, you had to have this in place, otherwise they would yank it, like when some counties unilaterally went from the red phase to the yellow phase, or from yellow to green without the state ordering, so. But I think just because, it's worth a little more research.
Jacob, it doesn't expire then.
Ours
to-
does not. Ours is been in perpetuity since last March. I know Middle Smithfield, rescinded theirs, but I haven't seen their resolution to do that. But I think that probably worth just tabling and seeing what happens if we hear anything, from the state in the meantime. I know that state and federal government are adamant that, shutdowns and things like that are not on docket, but I think that eventually considering, incentives for vaccines, requiring them, and masking, that might all be something we have to talk about, because we're in line with the unvaccinated for a bad fall and winter.
Well, you're saying let it ride for now.
Yeah, let it ride.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
But I do think we should all consider those things as we get closer. I know that we've done a great job, here, making sure everybody's vaccinated, but, there's always exceptions to every success. And I think that, we have to follow, the lead of some other municipalities, if they take that, or even, us consider that ourselves too. I think that at this point, people have to realize that the problem with this pandemic is not people that are vaccinated getting breakthrough cases, which is statistically extremely low. It is those that have refused to be vaccinated and protect their neighbors and loved ones that are causing the spikes in these cases. And, we have to do what we can to make sure that, we protect ourselves and our staff, our professionals, everybody that comes into contact with this government. So I just think that's something we should think about.
An aside, if you will, then, is that good old Monroe County is second out of the 67 counties in Pennsylvania.
Right.
For instances of per 100,000.
Right.
I mean, that came out of nowhere.
I would like to see some leadership from the county. If anybody watched the last county commissioners meeting, someone said, shouldn't we have a county Department of Health for, better statistics or for, ensuring people get vaccinated, in which Commissioner Moyer and others intimated that it really wouldn't have made a difference if they had one anyway. And I think that's a terrible approach. A friend I spoke to this morning said, even if only 10 people showed up, that's 10 lives that could be saved. So I'm very disappointed seeing that from the commissioners, but we will see.
Well, at least they said something.
Yeah.
I have no comment.
We'll see what happens. I hope that they continue. I know our colleagues in Middle Smithfield, their building is gonna be used for a vaccination clinic, I think, later on this week, and then a second dose next month. I think that
They were there last week. I was up to see the facility, and I'll talk it later.
But I think that they should. I'd like to see the county get on that rather than, telling us the day of that there's a clinic. I think it's important to advertise these things as much as you can. It's free. It saves lives. That's all I'll say for now on this. But I'll move that we table this item.
I'll second that motion.
Questions?
We have a second?
Yeah, he's got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next, item is, the status of the Jones and Zaplishny lot line adjustment plan. I don't know if you want to speak to that, John?
Well, there's still a couple comments. We got the email from George Fetch back in June, and we did look into it, and he did address a lot of the comments, but Missy followed up with one or two, and we we've tried to call him and contact him, and he hasn't gotten back to us. I'll continue to try to do that. I think we have to the end of the month, Ron, to...
Yeah, we had until the middle of the month, but he had filed a revised plan as of June 1.
Okay.
So that started the 90-day kicker running again. So we have until August 30 to address this. So, I mean, if you're going to meet on the 24th,
Yeah.
you can certainly table it till then, and you still have time to take action and be timely. So that's up to you. I mean, we have the conditional approval forms that I've prepared, and we can mark off, et cetera. We could also determine if there's any conditions, and I can send it to Fetch and see if he would sign it.
And if he does it,
Or the applicant.
Then we've gotta deny it at that point.
Well, do we know the applicants? Don't they come here?
I don't think I've ever met.
Maybe I'm getting confused.
Yeah, you know,
the
I
name,
think, well, isn't the gentleman's first name Neil Jones? I wanna say that he has been to at least one meeting, but I only ever remember seeing George at one or two, and once via Zoom. I
I mean,
think.
if we could approve it conditionally, then you just don't record it until they get the conditions satisfied. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
This fellow's status has been here several times.
What's that?
Fellow's status.
Oh.
It's been here several times.
For a moment.
Sorry, you know, it's getting a little dry.
Yeah, well, that could happen.
That being said, Mr. Chair, do you want me to review the conditional form with John?
I think that you should.
And then I'll send it to Fetch, and if he signs it, fine. If not, then you keep it on for the 24th.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense.
And then I'm gonna review these with you right now. It'll take a minute.
Okay.
Planning module.
Doesn't need it for a lot
All
longer.
right. Any certifications for Smithfield Township Sewer or other authority? Any written certification for Broadhead Creek Regional or other authority?
No.
Monroe County Planning Commission review.
I don't believe for lot line, no.
Okay, Monroe County Conservation District review.
Yeah.
Any soil erosion or sedimentation plan or plot and grading plan, et cetera?
No.
PennDOT, or township driveway permit. Any other permits like, NPDES, et
No.
cetera? Compliance with township engineers review letter of. And the last one I have here from you, John, is, just give me a moment, April 14 of 2021, but you say Missy sent another one?
Well, we did it by email because we thought we could get it resolved.
Okay.
So I would make a condition of that letter, and once he gets it all
Okay.
done.
Okay.
So we're gonna do April 14 then.
Right.
Okay. Any deed of dedication for streets?
No.
Any unification or merger deed?
Yes. No. We need that. He may have submitted that already. I think he did, but I'd put that as a condition.
Okay. Well, yeah, if he's met it, then he's met it.
Right.
Any grant of easement for rights of way along
No.
any roads or anything?
No.
Any improvements agreement or maintenance agreement for anything?
No.
Park recreation, open space deeds?
No.
Monuments, pins, markers to be set in the field and certified in writing?
Yes.
Did we give him any saldo waivers, because I don't remember.
I don't believe so.
All right. Plan to be obviously signed, plan to be notarized. Any other conditions that you can think of? Now, obviously, remember, you have your letter of April 14, so we're covered there. Anything else?
No, I think whatever we have in that letter should be sufficient.
Well, these are very simple conditions, so, I mean, I'll prepare the form, I'll send it to
Right.
Fetch. I'll give a copy to you guys and to Julie, and then if he doesn't sign it, well, then as we get to the 24th, we may have to then readdress it.
Right.
Okay, I can do that, so you can either table it, let's table it to the 24th, and then if he signs it, you just take it off that agenda at that time. I think that makes sense, just table it till then.
Do I hear a motion to that effect?
Make a motion.
Second, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So it's tabled to the 24th.
Yep.
And then if he signs the form, then you can take it off.
Right. Great. All right, our last item is our bills. I did not review personally the July 23rd ones, but I know Julia and Lynn did, and the most recent ones I did also, which included our payrolls, which included a larger payout due to employee leaving. It also included expenses to the tax collector, as well as insurance and typical services related to leak Strausers and propane and whatnot. So our total obligations for this period are $71,839.02. Anybody have any questions?
No, I don't.
Do I hear a motion that we meet our obligations?
Make a motion.
I'll second it.
Simultaneously
Try that
moved
one.
by my colleague. I will, okay, all right, that works. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, do we have any public comments? I don't see anyone joining us on Zoom. There is certainly no one else in the room. Does anybody have anything they wish to
Yes.
bring forward?
Yes, and I do too, but let's take care of Mr.
No, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say that, I have to fault myself on Francis Roth zoning amendment thing. I just wasn't paying attention enough there because of the Smithfield Gateway, gotta get this done, this has to be done, et cetera. And I realized that, she didn't file anything, is she gonna pay for notifying the homeowners and, people, because it's a map change, et cetera, so I said to him, even though I did the advertising and it's done, they go out, obviously, because I would have to send them an ordinance, et cetera. That's another thing, is she gonna prepare the ordinance? So, if we're gonna do that, I don't have a problem doing any of that, but then understand that, she's gonna incur some significant costs.
I guess my question there would be, why would they need an ordinance if it's just a map change? Like, why would anything have to be written?
Because you're changing the zone, not just the map, you're changing it from ED back to residential, I believe.
Right, so for that specific property, but from my understanding, I know that people have routinely asked to, move their property. I think that, there were people that wanted to be excluded from either the B1 zone or, I don't think anyone did that with the ED zone until now, but what sort of ordinance would have to be written?
The ordinance would have to say
specific to the parcel number, or?
This parcel is no longer going to be in the economic development zone. It will now be back to RC, I think is what she had wanted, and that's where it was, joining. And again, I can do this, that's not a problem, as long as township understands that I'm drafting an ordinance, I have to now prepare notices to go to the property owners. I have to find out who the property owners are, so that requires checking with respect to the factor, you might be blowing 3-4 hours, that's $1,500 out of the box before you even get to the paying for the steno, et cetera. So I just want to make sure that township and the advertising, even before we get to the steno and the advertising. So I'm not sure if the 15 would be enough, or if you should say, we're not doing this until you do boom, 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 and I can do a letter to her to that effect. And
Every way of tagging this.
I don't think she has the resources. And
That was
that's
my
why we're
concern.
sitting here now.
Is there any way
The
of
other
tagging this onto the amendment we're going to make to the ED zone? And
No,
taking it out?
Absolutely, sure we can.
Take it out.
We could, if we're gonna make those amendments and they're actually gonna take place, then they can be part of those amendments.
It seems like the cheapest way, isn't it?
Well, it's certainly not gonna require double work.
Right.
It's only gonna require work one time.
If it's
But
just
you
adding
still have to post.
We'll have to post, we still have to notify the property owners and all that.
We've got to post the whole amendment anyway, right?
No.
Well, you don't have to post the
No.
amendment, if it's just a text change, you don't have to post it, but
Right.
map change, you have to
Because there is no, real map change. There's map change for this, but it's not like when Ken had to post 400 properties.
I understand, but one lot is still a map change.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying it is not.
Fortunately, that's remote.
No, I agree, it's not as involved, and I'm looking at the map here, we probably gotta notify 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 owners maybe of, of the,
Where is it?
It's right over here.
Let me show you the map that I have here, because I'm not smart enough to know that.
Well, while you're doing that,
I'm not smart enough to know that. Here,
did we ever see your tax?
that's what she has, and that's
Most
where,
people
So we're up to $20. I see.
Yeah.
you good?
I didn't.
We'd have to,
Yeah.
double check on that, make that, an
Julia.
exhibit or.
I
Yeah.
didn't hear what you were.
Well, very simply, we've never seen anything to substantiate the tax increase. And what's the implication here, by the way, anyway? If we have an ED zone and we're gonna, change it, restructure it, and include some R1, R2s, and RCs, are they all gonna see tax increases? And if they are they substantial? The implication was this was substantial for a widow, and that could be whatever, definable. But, most people I've talked to had reductions.
Well, I don't see where this tax is gonna change that significantly, but again, I don't work for Monroe County, I don't work for the tax assessors,
No,
but.
again,
But if she has a house or something on that already, it's not gonna change just because it's in an ED, economic development zone. And economic development, you can have residential, so it's not like they're gonna make a big change, I don't think. And if they do, then obviously, then she would have to appeal that and fight it, but. With the fact that you have residential and economic development, how are they gonna make a big change there? It's not like commercial or industrial, that's a whole different deal.
Right, again, I don't know what the implications are.
I don't know either, but you were right in your email to ask that question as to whether or not this is gonna cause a change in the tax base for her, or, and other people too.
For other people who are gonna, could follow the same thing.
Yeah. All right, well, I just wanted to know which way we're running with the ball, so if we're gonna wait for the ED amendments, then that's fine.
Well,
If that's what the board
I
is
mean-
of a mind to do.
Certainly, I'm all for waiting and clarifying some things, asking to, see what the differences in the taxes, were, what would the assessed value have been, and what is it now, and,
And I think we just got yesterday, maybe, the, FCPC review
right.
of this.
and wait till she gets her school taxes, well, they're out now.
It just came out.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, and I think the Township Planning Commission is meeting Thursday, so I
Right.
guess this might be on their agenda too, and this way, the two reviews will be out of the box, it'll be done then. Assuming it's on their agenda, I'm not sure what's on the agenda right now.
I'd have to,
Very little. Happy to say. I've got, 3 items here I just wanted to bring up. The first, concerns, the fact that PennDOT seems to be resurrecting green light go. And, I can't think we can expect to see our grant reinstated very shortly. That brings up the question of one light that was never included, which is the light at Bushkill Falls, which I went to, try to get this included originally, I thought was Lehman Township turned it down. It turns out it isn't, it's the Park Service. And,
Is that, okay, your email, I just couldn't put that together because that particular, light was never a part of it.
well, I'd hoped it would be, but Lehman Township turned us down. My belief in theirs was they control it, they don't. Seems that it's totally in the park and it's the Park Service's light. If you think of where the park boundary is, it's before you get to.
I think the light at Fernwood would be just as much in the front.
Well, it is, except I don't think, Little Smithfield has ever wanted to include that because it's kind of an on-demand light. They could take it out and it wouldn't make any difference at this point. But with this one, it does make a difference, and it is the gateway to the park. To include it probably is going to require somebody to go to the higher levels of the Park Service, because not only including it's an expense and so forth and so on. My feeling, after talking to John Donahue, who's the former superintendent of the Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area, that he's the guy to do this. He wants to, be involved. I think we should consider, and maybe in the next month or so, approving what I would call a modest payment to him, maybe $2,500. I don't know if he'd accept it, but I think he would, to, shepherd this thing for us and try to get it approved. Any internal mechanism the Park Service has to go through, which I'm sure is quite complex. That's one item maybe we should take up next week or sometime in one of our meetings in the next month or so. The next thing is Dave King from Dirtscape called this morning and asked if we wanted to pave, the bike park this year, or we're gonna pave it next year. He said it's
Pave it? Pave the bike pump?
Bike park, yeah, because, apparently it's, he's just looked at it, it's, not in great shape, just the weather, erodes it. So I think certainly we should take a look at and decide, if we can afford it. If we wanna do it now, it's probably about $20,000, or if we wanna put it in next year's budget. But if we wait, I don't know what it'll be like in the spring, and that's a conversation we should have with both him and anybody else who seems to be expert on the subject. Maybe, John, you should take a look at it and see what you think.
Maybe even the, conservation district, we're gonna be getting into, that's impervious service more.
Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna make you, more stormwater management or not. We'll have to take a look at that criteria. It might be okay the way it is, but I can't remember, I'll have to look at
Well, I think it required certain, drainage pipes, which I think he put in when he redid it, which.
He fixed them, because they were all like a foot above the ground. There was no drainage occurring with them.
And the third thing is, we've discussed before, is whether we need a noise ordinance. I got several complaints over the weekend from people in, Lake Valhalla about a huge rock concert or all kinds of noise going on all night from the airport. And I called Troy, Hammond, whose property it is. He didn't know anything about it, but was gonna look into it, and apparently someone's doing concerts over there, but, we have no ordinance against that. I think we've all had, or at least I have had, complaints from people up around Mount Nebo, noise that actually comes from the 1836 saloon in Marshall's Falls.
Rainbow Mountain, of course, Rainbow Mountain.
I don't think, that's another one.
Yeah.
But, this one I think was also from Marshall's Creek, rather, the 1836 saloon.
Yeah.
Which I noticed has now kind of a rock and roll venue there, so a band. But so, it seems that all of these are outdoor, music, venues, and, there are not that many of them, but they should have, I think, some rules, like, midnight on weekends, 11 o'clock during the week, something like that. And then there have also been complaints about contractors working on Sundays, cutting trees, building houses, I just think it's time, sort of in a transition to more urban, kinds of activities out here, and that sound carries, and we should have something to control it.
I think I'm sorry, but I think we have an ordinance, it's pretty weak, and we ran into a couple of situations about, quite some time ago, I guess, where we had the same situation up on the hill by, where Mr. Riccobono's house is, and, there is a place up there, and it became I guess it was a bar. It became a bar. We're not quite sure if it was licensed or not. It was kind of one of those things. And the noise was just unbelievable. So we got involved with it, and this predates you, so that's how far back.
I don't remember.
It was his guy. And then, so we got into it, and then we had to go out and hire somebody who was a professional for decibel monitoring. And send them up at like midnight. And then what happened was whoever represented this entity said, yeah, well, our monitor is nowhere near yours, let's go to court. Or like, listen to, but you're right, it needs to be done, there's no doubt. I think we maybe we're discouraged because of that, but.
Well, we don't have to go as far as decibels, as long as we have hours of operation of saying, look, you're having a concert, it's gotta be over on a Saturday night by midnight.
No, but then you go back to Rainbow Mountain, 10 o'clock in the morning, the band starts, the DJ's playing music, and it just blows you right out of your house. And that's the decimal, that's for, but the good news is if there's alcoholic beverages, the Liquor Control Board, as you know, came through. But yeah, definitely. I sent 2 of those ordinance around, quite some time ago. One was very weak, I think you looked at that, and then Ron, I sent it back to you and you said, I think you sent me a modification
Upper Mount Bethel has a very involved, complicated, noise ordinance.
Yeah.
And, it's never enforced it, and there's people complaining all the time. They said, we're not gonna spend the money. We're not gonna have to be paying decibel readers, professionals coming into court, spending the money. We're just not gonna do it. If you think it's a problem, Mr. Citizen, call the police and report it as a public nuisance or as disturbing the peace or something. That's the position they've been taking.
Well,
you know.
That's why I say maybe just hours of operation, something. And then if somebody really has problems, they'll call the police.
Well, again, that's an issue, as Brian says, if you have some people starting at 10 in the morning, well then, you know, obviously the hour's gotta be more reasonable than like, I don't know, say 4 to 10 or something like that, not 10 o'clock in the morning, you know. The contractors, I don't know, I mean, I'm cutting grass on Sunday, so I'm not sure what you do with that, but.
I think I know what Robert's referring to, and I don't wanna, involve any names in the complaints that I've got. But it was literally weekend, Sundays, earlier, 5 o'clock.
That's a little early
6 in the
to be
morning.
starting to do stuff.
Well, major chainsaw activity, very close to people's property.
And chainsaws are loud, they're noisy, they are, great.
My HOA, just for example, they have rules, you can't start, I think, before 7 or 8, and you can't work on Sundays, you know, just basic rules like that.
If Brian believes that the township does have a noise ordinance, let's see if we can't have, with your permission, Lois to dig it up, send it to me, and then we'll see what it says.
Because Ken said we don't, so that's all I.
Okay, well, maybe we don't then, so Lois does her checking and she says no, okay.
those restrictions on certain.
Well, that,
All right, well, anyway, it's an area of great concern.
right, yeah, I think that's something
we
that
actually may have put that
we
on the
should
gateway.
definitely, talk about, going forward. We have a pretty packed August 24th, but I think going
Township
beyond
wide,
that, we certainly have a couple of months left this year
I
to
don't remember.
start addressing
I
the
can
beginning of the next building season. This one concludes.
And the next rock and roll.
I thought it was on the individual plan, but let me.
Yeah, I wasn't invited to any of the concerts.
Shit, I wasn't either.
Could have been part of.
Okay.
Are we killing it, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I think so. Does anybody have anything else?
I do not, I'll make a motion.
Okay, I will second the motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 5:19 PM.
Now, what's this, 483, are we signing this?